Hello everyone, my name is Balu and this is my sketchbook. Today, it's storytelling time. That's right, I feel like I make a lot of characters and I do not provide enough of information and backstory and lore about those characters and why do I make this or that particular decision while making them. So, that kind of thing or shit will be donezo. From this day forward, or at least from the day you will watch it, I'm commenting to provide much more knowledge about the characters I'm showing you that I'm drawing or painting or sketching, whatever. Because I feel like when I make a character, I do not provide enough information. It's like ordering a meal and not ordering desserts as well. It's like watching Tom without Jerry. It's like running after Chip and just forgetting about Dale. It's like my YouTube without you guys. And anyone wants that? No, no one wants that. So I'm commenting and I hope you will enjoy those kind of videos. If you like them, don't forget about the 3 basics of YouTube, that is subscribe, comment and like, because that that helps with the algorithm, you know. And with that said, I will see you all in the end of the video for some final thoughts. Let's begin. Yeah. Abe'dath, the city of gold sand, mixed in fish races and weather which is hotter than necessary. It is also the home city of Abethian people and their pharaoh, Lazarus Anub Ab Athen III. In the year of 10th of 32, the driest year ever known for citizens of Abedath, food shortage was not far from reality. In fact, it was precisely what they had to deal with for the next 12 cycles. Only 5% of the population of the city of 64,000 people had enough food, and the meaning of enough food is already a bit of exaggeration. These 5%, of course, was the wealthy part of the city, consisting of a royal palace, a couple of wealthy families who were in close relationship with Pharaoh, oracles of throne and servants of palace. Well, one can hardly call a servant wealthy, but at least they had food and shelter. Years passed and starvation was becoming hard to deal with. Many cases of sudden death were recorded on obelisks in different parts of the city, and death by hunger was not the only and main reason for that. Many of lives have been lost at times of dark and surprisingly hot nights. There have been a couple of cases of whole families being slaughtered at once, resulting in their food supplies being gone. Lazarus III had many thoughts and tries on how to fix this food shortage, but it has been 8 cycles already and nothing was working. On the year of 2032, 10 full cycles after famine had begun, King Lazarus III was close to civil war. Riots have been much more common, much more deadly for both citizens and for royal guards, even cutting their own food stocks and giving parts of it to families in need. Pharaoh was still on the verge of assassination. Every sunrise was the beginning of bloodlust, and every sunset was fear of death to every member of the royal family. On the 8th day of 10th of 10th of 20 of 32, Pharaoh was visited by the 2 of his oracles, Adab and Ag-Anshka, representing hope and wish, 2 aspects of life he desperately needed and sought. Oracles barely ever left chambers of Deep Dune's temple devoted to Hathor, also known on those lands as Denser, the Fortune. Lazarus III knew this was not an accident. 2 oracles representing his dire needs from the temple of life goddess herself. This had to mean something. He greeted them with as much as he had and could spare. It was also so strange that he had this feeling of relief and hope rising deep within him. Oracle spoke in a cohesive and calm voice. Pharaoh of this land, you and your people have been punished by Nephthys herself. for sins no elf or ally could ever be forgiven for. Yet the Lady of Sands had spoken to us, the children of nurturing mother, and has offered her blessing. Their What? What is the price? Said impatient, buoyed up but slightly annoyed Pharaoh. Travel to the peak of the pool of the black sand, to the roots of ever-growing tree, there in the fourth chamber of the third temple on the lowest branch, you will find your answer and your forgiveness. To the overgrowing tree? In the deadlands? Dunes of orcs? But that's a forsaken place. Even more, no one is permitted to pass to the pool of the black sand. Without any answer, two oracles stood up and left puzzled Pharaoh alone with his thoughts. Why deadlands? Why dunes of orcs? And what sin have he and his people committed to anger Nephthys? And why oracles of the nurturing mother delivered this message? All of those questions were flooding his mind, but none was as important as finding the way to deal with the cycles of hunger. So on the ninth day of 2032, Pharaoh and a couple of royal guards had left the palace and the city of Abe'dath for a 2 days journey towards dunes of orcs. Even though the journey was not too long, as the black sands were close to the city, the hot and unwelcoming weather of those lands made travel much more hard than it had to be. Just in a couple of sand drops, they were already exhausted and thirsty, and that was just a portion of the journey. Even nights could be hot as day, not as much, but still unpleasant. When the constellation of Apis was in the peak, one of the pharaoh's guards had stumbled on the ruined walls of an old temple buried deep in the sands. The temple must have been here for ages upon ages, even before his people had settled in the lands of golden sands. A small spark of interest had burst in his mind. What was this temple, or whose? It was already really rare to find an old temple in black sands, and they probably were only lucky enough because of the strong winds that blew for the past 2 or 3 days. Entering, Pharaoh lost himself in thoughts of what could possibly be there, and just after seconds of consideration took his first step into the partially broken portal of the old temple. Portal led into a small passage continuing with stairs going down deeper and deeper into darkness. Because of the pharaoh's elven lineage and blood of moonseeker elves, darkness was not a problem for his eyes. Neither was it a problem for his silent seekers. 10 royal guards assigned to Pharaoh and only him. Surprisingly, the stairway was longer than any of them thought. After close to an hour walking down deeper and deeper, the hint of light sprang at the end of the passage. The light was dim, but strong enough to reveal markings on walls of this long and tiresome passage, markings which Pharaoh had just noticed were probably from the very beginning of the passage. Markings represented old draconic words and incantations, and by age and visualization it meant that it was from ages of first dragonfly. Events that happened on a couple of occasions about tens of hundreds ago. He only knew legends about anything of this, and would have never even imagined he could have been lucky enough to find a temple from that age. This drove him even more excited and even more eager to find what could be in those ruins. Silent seekers, though worried, said nothing, as without a single question followed their pharaoh, thus staying loyal to their oath. Apparently the temple was not as huge as one could have thought. After a small corridor which followed those long stairs, visitors of temple found a chamber, quite big and surprisingly unharmed by ages. Inside 12 stone pillars stood untouched, holding what could apparently be a rope, though none of them could see far enough to see the end of those pillars. Each of those pillars were shaped and carved in the shape of twisted snakes. The walls of the chamber were full with the same type of marking as the passage earlier, and the whole chamber was lit by torches of yellow flames, held by candles in the shape of clouds. Inside the chamber, right in the center, there was a pool with floating red crystal on top of it, not higher than about 2 or 3 feet. Crystal was pyramid-shaped, spinning in slow motion, and a soft, cold night breeze was blowing from it. Pharaoh came closer to the pool, looking inside and seeing it was not filled with water but something else. Black liquid, not ooze, but not water also. He could swear he saw purple glow and small dots like stars shining from its substance. But while interested in this strange pool, his thoughts darted right to the crystal. As soon as his eyes fixed on it, he heard a voice coming in his mind. It has been far too long since anyone has visited my dormant soul. O of Abe'dath, I greet you and your servants. Thank you, visiting. Who are you? Asked puzzled Pharaoh as he talked with someone or somewhat, yet not opening his lips to speak. With me, no real important. But what you seek is the real one to us. Your people are dying even now as we speak. You had a mission, and yet you stand here seeking for knowledge about this place, forgetting your selfless act of saving your people. But I am not in the position to judge you or your silent servants who chose to be loyal to the oath they gave. Instead, I will offer you my help and power. Drink from the pool in front of you, and may all your questions be answered. Pharaoh wasn't sure what was talking to him, but he felt a huge calmness in its voice, calmness that could bring him the truth in just a few heartbeats. Without realization, Lazarus Abe'dath the third fell on his knees, desperately reaching to the pool of black liquid, drinking like a thirsty sand surfer on the hottest day. Liquid tasted weird, like molten metal, iron or copper specifically, but Pharaoh paid no attention to it. For a moment, the taste had disappeared, and so did everything in front of Lazarus. He stood in an empty chamber full of nothingness and darkness, darkness he could not see into. And then he saw them, his parents whom he had lost cycles ago, his younger brother and sisters who waited for him in the city, and the citizens he had to save. But something was wrong. Their faces were unseen for him. He could not remember what any of them looked like. Black cloud-like masks covered every single soul's face, and heat of fear caught him. After a moment, his father's voice struck out like a sudden thunder in the cloudless sky. You left them, the voice said. You left them to their own demise. Shame. Voice of the father changed into more feminine, softer, but yet nowhere near calming voice. It was voice of his mother. Selfish child, unworthy to lead his own people. Different voices started to rise up, all accusing Lazarus of selfish acts and betrayal of his people. All of them, except one. One voice that came from behind of every other. Voice that had form, voice that had light, voice that had shone with a red warmth, and Lazarus reached to it in hopes to find salvation. Yet, he was wrong. It was not a voice of salvation, hope, or anything alike. It was force of ancient darkness and evil, a creature of old ages seeking for the right moment to snap his jaws and snatch the soul of pathetic, naive Pharaoh. Lazarus felt it all, like something pulled out every aspect of his consciousness and soul right out of his body and buried deep in the sands. Painful shock rushed right from his mind to his heart, and his whole body crumbled into dust like an old mummy taken out his resting place. His bones slowly rusted, clothes he wore became old and weathered. His heart, no longer beating, hardened and crystallized, took place in one of the old jars right next to the unnoticed till now sarcophagus. Lazarus Abe'dath the third was not a cheerful and happy soul that his people and nation knew, but an old and rusted body of soulless mummy devoted to his lord. General of the 10 silent seekers, whom also turned into mindless mummies, became new pawn of the board of times played by none other than the widower himself, by the unfinished selfless act Pharaoh had to commit and never had chance to finish, by foolish act to find more than he needed, and by tricks of so-called oracles of faith, the commandment of selflessness was born, and Void Elder had yet another general in his hands, preparing for the rise he had planned long time ago. And that's why you had pineapple on pizzas. Yeah, sure. No, no, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, sure. Oh, oh. I guess the video has ended. What a surprise, right? I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Making story behind the characters is the art of itself. So I feel like I'm still a toddler that's trying to learn how to walk. So if you enjoyed it, don't forget three basics of YouTube, of course. As I said, subscribe, comment, and like, and also don't forget to check all my social media is the places where you spend a considerable amount of everyday's time. I'm not judging, I do that too. I also stream on Twitch. I do not have a specific schedule, but it's a bit chaotic right now, but I'm trying to organize it as well. But if you want to come watch me live sketching and talk with me about anything that comes in your mind, join twitch.tv/BowlSketch. I was not about that. And with that said, I will say goodbye until the next video, and thanks again for watching. Bye!